This is Scarab Lords. It's a game by Reiner Knizia that primarily uses hand management for area control. In the advanced game, there's some deck building, and we'll talk about that later. Throughout the game, the players are competing for control of Hecamet, which is basically a fantasy Egypt. The board is divided into Upper Hecamet and Lower Hecamet, with areas for military, religious, and economic influence in the region. The game will end when one player has the majority of influence in 2 areas on each side of the board, so in both Upper and Lower Hecamet. Or, if your opponent runs out of cards, you win at the beginning of your next turn. Each player is going to get a deck of cards, and you'll shuffle these, and each player will take 6 cards to get their starting hand. The game plays in a series of phases. On your turn, you'll have Phase 0, where you'll take any number of Phase 0 actions. Phase 1, where you'll take 1 Phase 1 action. Phase 2, where you'll take 1 Phase 2 action. And then you'll have the Supremacy phase, where we calculate to see who has the dominance in each area on the board. During the game, various effects will cause cards to become cursed, and that means that you put one of these little scarab tokens on it. The card effectively becomes blank until another effect or an action allows the other player to remove the cursed token from their card. Some cards come into play cursed, and you can have multiple curse tokens on any particular card, but if an effect tells you to uncurse a card, it means that you're just removing 1 token at a time. If you're playing the advanced game, then you're playing 2 out of 3 on games of Scarab Lords. So after your first game, both players will go through their deck of cards, so you'll have one player with a blue deck and one player with a red deck. Both players will go through and remove 5 cards simultaneously. After you've removed 5 cards, the losing player first gets to choose 5 cards from the discarded cards and the deck of neutral cards to replace the 5 cards in their deck. So you'll use this rebuilding mechanic to focus your deck on a particular strategy that you think will be more likely to defeat your opponent. After the losing player has replaced the 5 cards in their deck, then the winning player does the same with the discards and the neutral cards that are remaining. After your second game, you'll do the exact same thing.
Okay, go!
Okay, so this is Scarab Lords, and we are fighting over this land of fantasy Egypt here. You have a deck of cards, and I have a deck of cards. This is the land of Upper Fantasy Egypt, and this is the land of Lower Fantasy Egypt. And then this is the column for the gods. Each of these columns are different things. This is military, religion, and economic power. So during the game, we're going to play cards back and forth into these columns in order to try to establish supremacy over that particular area of either Upper or Lower Egypt. If you have supremacy, then it will get marked by you placing a little pyramid token there.
It's not even a pyramid, it's a triangle.
Yeah, it's a pyramid token.
Okay.
When you look at your cards, you will probably have minions, which are... they have their names in the bottom left-hand corner of the card. Mm-hmm. And then their symbols are at the top, too. So, like, 2 little men's are minions, and then there's, like, a pyramid for buildings. a Burial Mask for leaders, an Eye of Thoth for god cards, and then a pair of Scales for fate cards. Under that, they're going to have a number. The number will tell you what their power rating is, so how much influence they give you in their particular area. And then beneath that, there's going to be a number inside a yellow shape, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then you'll have symbols that match these symbols for minions, buildings, and leaders. God cards always get played here into the middle column. You can only have 3 god cards on your side of the board. If you play a 4th one, then you have to discard one of them. You can only play other cards into a column that matches one of their symbols on either side of the board. Okay, so cards. Most of the cards will stay out, like minions and leaders and buildings and god cards. Fate cards just get played and then get discarded immediately. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so turn sequence. There are 4 phases. There's turn 0, or phase 0, then phase 1, phase 2, and then the supremacy phase. During phase 0, you can take any number of phase 0 actions. And then you take 1 phase 1 action, 1 phase 2 action, and then the supremacy phase happens. The number that's inside that yellow
So what phase
star tells you which phase that card can be used in.
Alright.
So your actions are playing a card that matches the phase, activating a card that matches the phase, or decursing a card that matches the phase. Some cards come into play cursed, and some effects cause cards to become cursed. If they're cursed, they get one of these Scarab tokens on them, and they are effectively a blank card when they're cursed. You can only activate or decurse a card during its phase. Okay, so the supremacy phase, we add up our power in each region. Whoever has the highest power has supremacy in that region. If we're tied, nobody has supremacy in it. Like I said, you get a little pyramid token to tell you you have supremacy there. And then you can take your supremacy, you can exercise your supremacy. If you have military supremacy, and you do this for each area, so you could do military supremacy twice if you had both military supremacies. If you exercise military supremacy, your opponent must discard the top card of their deck. If you exercise religious supremacy, you may curse one of your opponent's minions, buildings, or leaders within the same region where you're executing supremacy, so upper or lower. Or economic supremacy, which allows you to draw a card and activate any number of supremacy actions. So some of your cards are going to have an action that is for the supremacy phase, is what I gathered from that. The game ends when either of us control 2 in each of upper and lower. So if you have the majority in both places. Or if your opponent runs out of cards, then you will win at the beginning of your next turn, as soon as they're out of cards in their deck.
It's like the Pokemon trading card game.
Yep.
Cool.
And then advanced rules, we would play 2 more times, and you would take 5 cards out of your deck, and take 5 cards out of the neutral deck to add to your deck. So you'd get to say, I want to have more military strength, so you'd rebuild your deck to take military minions out, probably. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's all of the things.
Is there no difference between minions, buildings, and leaders, other than, like, maybe some cards will say this affects leaders?
I think so, yeah, that it's just going to tell you that.
Okay.
Minions, you just have their power rating. Buildings often come into play cursed because they have a higher power rating. And then leaders, you may only have one leader in each column. That's the only thing that I didn't talk about for leaders.
Alright.
So, I talked about God cards and I talked about Fate cards, so I think that's everything. It seemed like it should all be pretty straightforward. You can pass your entire turn to discard your entire hand.
And then draw 6 new cards.
To discard any number of unwanted cards.
Okay.
And then draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. During your turn, you may discard any of your cards in your hand or already in play. Discarding cards does not cost an action. When a card is discarded for any reason, it is placed face up in its player's discard pile. Some cards are passive and some cards are active. If it is an active card, it will say, action, do this thing. And that's, you activate that card and take that action. If it's passive, it will just have text on it. And once it's in play, it just does that thing all the time, was my understanding from the rules. The first turn is random. Which of us goes first? And that person will take 2... We'll choose 2 of the 4 phases to use. So that they don't get to go and do a full turn. But you get to choose which 2 you want to do. This is the only time you can choose to not do the supremacy thing, unless you're passing your entire turn. Skipping your entire turn to discard and draw.
Alright. Who goes first?
Whoever, it's random.
Who likes Egypt more?
I guess I like Egypt more, probably.
Or who most recently saw The Mummy?
I don't know.
Like a decade.
Okay, well, I will go first then.
What 2 phases are you gonna do?
I will activate... I'm gonna take phase 1 for sure. And then I'm trying to decide if I want to take phase 2 or if I want to take a supremacy phase and start getting control of stuff.
It seems like if you play any card, you're going to be guaranteed supremacy of something.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm going to activate phase 1. So I will play a merchant caravan here in Upper Fantasy Egypt. And then I will activate the supremacy phase. So I will take supremacy there, which allows me to draw a card. And this just has flavor text on it.
Okay.
Doesn't have, like, fancy text meaning anything. So that is you.
So
phase 0.
Okay.
And you take any number of actions that are phase 0 actions. Okay? Do you have any other phase 0 actions that you would like to take?
No. Because I can't, like, activate. Well, that's not a card that can activate, so I guess I just put that down.
Yeah.
Phase 1.
Phase 1. You get to take 1 action. It's probably going to be play a card. since you don't have any other phase 1 actions available to you. Oh! It's cursed.
Yeah.
Phase 2 action. Supremacy.
Do I not have supremacy? Oh, no.
Because it's 0.
Yeah. So I make you discard a card? Is that how that works?
Yep, so I have to discard a card.
Was it good?
You may remove all scarabs from all your cards in one region. That seems pretty good.
Hope that burns.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start my turn. I'm going to, let's see, I don't have any phase 0 actions. Phase 2, or phase 1, I'm gonna play a Disciple of Issue. And then for phase 2, I'm going to I'm gonna put it here. Okay, so the supremacy phase. I take supremacy here and here. Is it awful? So I draw a card because of supremacy here. I curse a card in this region because of supremacy here. Even though that's like meaningless because it's phase 0 card. I didn't think about that. And then I draw a card because of supremacy there. That's you. And all of this was just flavor text still.
So I guess my phase 0 things, I remove this?
Yeah, because that's just an action you can take during phase 0.
Yeah.
So.
Any
other phase 0 actions you'd like to take?
No.
Phase 1?
What does the religious thing do again? Like if you have supremacy here?
You can curse a card in that region.
Okay.
Oh!
It does this. What's this thing? And then I have no phase 2 again, so it's supremacy.
Supremacy happens.
You discard 2 cards off the top of your deck, and I'm gonna curse your draw card.
Yep.
I did.
Okay.
So.
You can have multiple Scarab tokens on there, but you only remove 1 when you decurse it, uncurse it, whatever terminology you want to use. Let's see. I'm going to send some Scarab Guards in phase 1.
Well, I miss supremacy. I should have thing here.
Yeah, sorry. And I'm going to send this guy here. So I have lost supremacy here because that's a 0. But I gain supremacy here. And I gain supremacy here. So I'm going to curse your building. And I'm going to force you to discard a card. And I guess I will curse this guy again, because why not? And I get to draw a card. And that is back to you. No.
It lets me draw 2 cards.
Cool. There we go. Ooh.
Discard 2 cards from your hand.
Okay. Randomly, or do I choose?
Discard 2 cards from your hand.
Okay. I'm going to discard that one. And then I have a tough choice. I'm going to discard this one. Oh, I like that ability.
Alright,
Supremacy. So you gain supremacy here because I am weak. So you draw a card.
That's it. Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I'm gonna discard that, and then I don't have any other actions, so supremacy happens. So I need to see if that means I win immediately. I'm gonna draw 2 cards. I place a curse here. And you discard a card, and a curse happens here, but it's meaningless. At the beginning of your turn. Okay. So I will only win the game at the beginning of my turn. If you don't shut me down.
Oh.
Okay. Phase 2. Ooh, snap. Okay.
I mean, you're going to lose that supremacy because
Yeah.
you're tied?
Yeah.
Alright. And I'll gain that one.
Yep. So I have to discard a card. Okay. Oh, I did have a thing I could have done to say 0 for a change. So, here, it goes there in phase 0. And then that happens in phase 1. And then supremacy. So I still have supremacy here. I regain supremacy there, which I will use to curse your leader. I do not have supremacy here or here. Here I curse your minion. And then I draw a card. I think I drew a card for that one, but I don't remember. So that is back to you.
I just lose.
Yeah.
I just don't have anything I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna waste my time. I just don't have any cards that are even remotely helpful. So
Yeah. I don't know if I just had like a really strong starting hand or what. Because right now I have 4, 8, 3, 3, and 6. Okay. Well, that is Scarab Lords. So if we were playing the advanced game, we'd play this 2 more times. After you get to go through your deck and discard things and take things that you wanted, and then I'd do the same. But it would start with you since you lost the game. Scarab Lords! The Lords of being of Scarabs.
I think it does actually have a tagline, but
What did you think about conquering Fantasy Egypt?
I think this game is pretty average. I know you haven't played Battle Line, but it feels pretty similar to that. I guess we did play Babel a long time ago, and it's kind of like Babel. You know, we had the thing where we played the cards at each other, and you know, I don't feel like it's very exciting. I don't feel like it's bad, but I also don't really have any interest in what's happening.
Sure.
I'm not convinced that it's well balanced right out of the box, because it seems like the 2 decks are different, and
well, they're definitely different. It's asymmetrical. I think that red is a little more balanced toward military supremacy at the start of the game, and blue is a little more balanced toward religion, I think, but also maybe toward economics. I don't know how much you had economically in your, or religiously in your deck, since you didn't really play that much of either.
Oh, they're in my deck, I just didn't get them.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest problem with the game, is that the mechanic of getting cards is you have to waste a turn to get cards if you don't have any cards right out of the gate that give you supremacy in economics.
In economics, yeah.
So...
yeah, in both of our plays, I managed to seize the economic thing in the first turn on both sides of the board, and then it was just... every turn I had a handful of cards, and I watched as you dwindled down to only having 1 or 2 options each turn.
So, I mean, I don't think it's mechanically well designed. The upside is that it's short, and you could just, you know...
it is really quick.
It's not painfully bad. But we've already reviewed 2-player games that I would rather play in that sort of genre of being a filler for just 2 people. I would rather play Pecking Order than this.
Sure, I would too.
This has more strategy than Pecking Order, I think, but it doesn't matter because this is also, I think, more hampered by the element of luck, I guess, with what you draw initially. I think I lean towards even just saying you should just probably draft out decks before you even start a single game. Like the rules tell you play a game and whoever loses can take some cards out of the neutral deck or whatever and make a better deck.
Just do that right at the
Just
start.
make a better deck of what you want to do at first. Like, I don't know. I don't see the point of playing a game where, oh, my deck is crap. I guess now I learned, and now I have to do better. Like,
I guess that segues into, you and I both really like deck building games. So what did you think about that deck building aspect in this of, each player simultaneously discards 5 cards, and then the losing player gets the first chance to look through the discards and the neutral deck and take whatever they want, and then the other player gets to do it?
Well, this came out before Dominion. So you can't really be like...
Yeah, you can't really judge it based on what we think of.
This is like the worst deck builder I've ever played.
Yeah, you can't really judge it based on what we think of as deck builders. It's not a deck
building game. I think that that baseball game we played, Baseball Highlights.
Yeah.
I think that has a better version of what this is trying to accomplish, where you play a short game, and then you use what you played in that game to buy new cards to put into your deck, and you filter out the crap cards as you go. So you're constantly fluctuating what your deck is, and it's changing over time.
Basically from hand to hand instead of from game to game.
Yeah. This feels like, oh, well, you just played a whole game and didn't do great. Do you want to do it again? But, maybe
you'll do better this time.
Yeah. And or maybe not, because I might just randomly draw completely different cards, and it doesn't.
Sure. I thought it was interesting while we were playing this. I made the comment when we were doing the deck building phase that I think if you really knew this game well, then you'd have, that phase would be pretty meaningful, because you'd know exactly what cards the other player was probably going after based on what they discarded, and have a good idea of what their strategy was going to be in the next phase. And I also don't know, like I didn't play the red deck, and I didn't really look through the red deck, so I don't know what you weren't getting that you needed to be more successful in our games. But yeah. Overall, what would you rate?
Well, I was going to say,
go ahead.
The artwork is pretty good, actually. And
we didn't talk about artwork. I actually like the artwork, too.
Honestly, it doesn't feel like a Reiner Knizia game. I don't have any problem with it being super abstract and bizarre. I think it's hampered by being in this unnecessarily large box with a board that's... The board is unattractive and doesn't need to be there. They could have just printed out cards and then put it in a small, like all of the other Silverline Fantasy Flight games that come in a smaller box. I don't know why this one is in this
really large,
strangely sized box. Other than, I guess Minotaur Lords exists, and you could combine the two, and we don't know anything about that because we don't have that. So,
one of the only thing that I didn't like that was artistic in there was I wish that your leader cards had more individuality, I guess. I don't know what yours looked like, but I had 2 or 3 that were multiple copies of the same leader, effectively, where it was your Scarab Warrior Lord guy, where I wish that they'd been a little more like this guy, so that your leaders were kind of a big deal, I don't know. So, any other thoughts, or do you want to move on to ratings?
5? I don't know.
I'd probably be right around 5, too. Yeah, 5, maybe.
5.25.
5.25, yeah.
It's okay.
I didn't think it was bad, but
I have no interest in playing it.
It wasn't
anytime soon or ever again. I could never play again, and I'd be fine with that. So.
What about Minotaur Lords? Are you did this intrigue you enough to want to play Minotaur Lords? No. The Minoan Crete theme doesn't do it for you over the Egypt.
No.
All right, so there you go. Scarab Lords, pretty average. If you really like the theme, it might be worth checking out. Otherwise, there are probably better options out there.
Is that what a scarab sounds like?
I guess. Based on like the mummy.
Yeah.
They're like cockroaches.
Yeah, they make like a noise.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Gross.